Hello and welcome to foxyroxyreviews. Today we're going to talk about mental health awareness. And as it's Mental Health Awareness Week, I felt that it might be a good time to kind of share kind of my personal journey and my personal story so we can kind of understand things a little bit more and everything else. And let's just get into it. Well, hello and welcome to the wonderful foxyroxyreviews. I have been thinking about kind of doing a little bit more kind of interpersonal stuff, and I do think it's really worthwhile kind of talking about these topics because these topics just aren't talked about anywhere near enough. I did want to do something just in the beginning just to say, obviously, we're going to talk about some quite deep topics on my personal journey. So we are going to be talking about some quite deep topics. So we're going to talk about things like depression, social anxiety, kind of suicidal thoughts and stuff like that. So if there's any of those you think that might be triggers, then this is kind of your disclaimers now, because I do think, especially within the trans community, a lot of things just are not talked about enough, or for me personally, are just not expressed enough that it's really kind of dealt with in, I feel, a very kind of beneficial way, in my own personal opinion. Okay, so I've got a couple of notes here just kind of guide me through kind of everything that I'm going to discuss today. Of course, please to keep up to date with any trans features, well-being and reviews. Please do subscribe to foxyroxyreviews. So let's go and get into everything at the moment. So I'm just having a quick look here. One of the things I find is really interesting, because I've gone on a big personal development kick in 2018. So I've been really looking to how can I develop myself kind of mentally and physically and everything else. And that is kind of something that has been kind of a big thing for me, is to make sure that I'm kind of on tip-top form, because obviously I'm well on my weight loss journey. I mean, I've lost over, say, just over 5 stone in weight at the moment, and this is since January, and of course there's been a big massive push for that, and a lot of people have kind of seen my progress and kind of seen my development, and it's kind of been a really big deal. But it hasn't always been this kind of this picture perfectness where I've kind of been this perfect individual, and it's been far from it. There's been certain places in my past where I've kind of questioned myself, my identity, kind of my own thoughts and things like that. And I think that's something that is kind of really kind of significant when you kind of talk about these things, is a lot of people you see as strong people, I find quite a lot of the time have had something that's happened in their past which has been a challenge or a difficulty for them, and it's something that they've had to overcome. And that's what I really kind of wanted to stress first of all, is I have been making a lot of progress. I definitely feel kind of a lot more motivated now, and definitely a lot more engaged in kind of what I'm doing and kind of feeling what I can achieve, and definitely my mindset is definitely on point this year. And obviously we're messing around with the live streams, other bits and pieces, and we're developing these as we go. We've definitely got a lot more stuff we want to do with them, so I just want to just bear that in mind, is that I think I know a lot of people have kind of been talking to me about lots of things, and kind of almost kind of looking at things in the way that I'm this kind of this amazing altogether person, and that is actually not been the case for some parts of my life. And I think as I've gone through, kind of I learned to become more self-aware and to deal and approach things better and in a more positive way. But I would say my challenges are still there, but I'm more kind of aware of them. So what I was going to do is kind of go kind of a bit back from kind of when I was growing up, kind of my challenges, where I kind of really had to reassess where I was and kind of where I've come to now. So it's kind of more kind of a bit of a journey. So I think you do really need a bit of context when you're kind of talking about these things and kind of discussing these types of topics. Let's just go on ahead here. There we go. Let's just have a quick look on my notepad here. Yeah, don't want that just yet. Yeah, so ever since I've kind of started, ever since I grew up, really, I was a very kind of a socially aware person. So I always would know kind of what other people were, kind of other people's mentality, and kind of would really sense kind of the personalities that they were, and I could kind of reflect kind of what they might be looking for. And there was a big thing for me of maybe wanting to fit in, especially when I was growing up, wanting to find a place in the world or find the place for where I fit. And I would be kind of very aware of, let's say, if I kind of like my say parental figures or family or friends or whatever, I would want to fit in to kind of what they would be wanting and kind of reflect what they would be looking for. And this would also then have a bearing or an impact on my own identity or my own kind of expression. So that is the thing that I've kind of growing up kind of found it really useful, and it's definitely very useful when you're speaking to people, so you can kind of understand them and appreciate them, kind of where they're coming from, etc., etc. But that was kind of tied up somewhat into my identity as well, because I wouldn't separate off those things too well. So I'd be looking at kind of fitting in with everyone else, fitting in with what other people's expectations were, at the kind of detriment of my own kind of mental well-being or my own kind of strong kind of perspective kind of going forwards. And there's a little bit of kind of, I knew that I was different and I would be kind of hiding away a little bit, because I knew that when I was growing up that I didn't really kind of see myself as male in the typical sense. I know that I definitely had strong figures in my life that wanted me to be kind of a strong man. And again, this goes a lot to tradition. I know a lot of things when you talk about parents and upbringing, other bits and pieces, that you kind of get the sense that there is certain social expectations when a child is being brought up, and it kind of how the outside world view things, especially when you grow up, you kind of sense that, oh no, it's kind of a mark of maybe a for kind of anyone in the family dynamic. If you have kind of a strong man, or you have a very considerate girl, or whatever the family deems as important qualities, because obviously it can depend on family to family kind of what it is. It's kind of how well they brought kind of up a child and stuff like that. And one of the things that I really focus on, kind of these social impacts and these kind of the social expectations, and these are a lot of times very, very kind of unconscious. So it's very easy kind of to fall into certain paths. And I myself was saying, oh, okay, well, I need to walk down kind of this road, and this is where I kind of need to go. And I think that kind of tying in the self-worth to what others wanted, and there's kind of a bit of that validation feedback as well, oh, they're happy, so I'm happy, would move me away from my identity, or who I was, and finding my true set of values kind of and perspectives and viewpoints. So kind of like moving then on to kind of when it coming up to kind of the big events and stuff, there was lots of my time when I found I was subconsciously, I think, looking to find a place where I could explore things and find out for myself how I would identify, or how I would want to present, and not knowing that something was different about me, that I definitely didn't fit into the world on how I was being brought up, but not where I would sit, and then having also that space to go, I don't know where I sit. There was a long period of time when there was very much kind of a period of finding out who I was and my own identity, and especially when I knew that I was counter to kind of social expectations, but then again, not knowing, saying, oh no, this is me, this is how I identify and everything else, and you go. And I think, especially when you're talking about things like coming out and stuff like that, it's almost like there's a desire to give yourself a label and you can announce it to the world. But when you don't know, and you kind of, oh no, maybe this is not me anymore, and then you seem that can be road, you might get a bit flippy flappy, wishy-washy, and go, oh, I'm this week, on this week, and kind of me being kind of a very deep and thoughtful person, there was kind of a sense of me wanting to know who I was. And of course then in the middle of me kind of trying to find out my identity, there was lots of kind of hiding and concealing. So for me, having, let's say, a male mask or something like that, I think was quite detrimental to me. And I'd say not that I don't think that I want to kind of run away from different types of expression, because I'm definitely more complicated and nuanced than that. But wearing this male mask became really heavy for me and definitely was wearing me down. And I've got things like kind of like mood eating and going out. And there's a very much a big sense of me wanting to kind of escape the mask any way that I could, but I also wanted the mask because that's how I would fit into the world. That's how I would rationalize, or I would be kind of have my own acceptance in there. And especially when I didn't know where I wanted to go, it was like a crutch in itself to keep that male mask and to keep that perspective. I think the big sense, though, I think as I went through my life, I think I knew that something was wrong. And I think me trying to run away from what my true identity was, or trying to find out at least what my true identity was becoming more and more of a burden to me. And this is obviously where I was kind of out from the family environment, so I had my safe space to kind of explore and be kind of more open and more kind of expressive. And there was a big sense, well, I'm going to need to kind of come back to that environment at some point in the future. And me knowing that, let's say, whatever I become, I definitely wouldn't be that masculine identity. There would be some sort of social ramifications to that. And I think that I hear a lot of the time when people wishing to be young, or kind of wishing that they could go back in time and be their younger self again. For me, it's almost like a leveling up. As I become older, I become more aware, and I feel that I become more understanding of myself. Definitely kind of a bit more self-critical and a bit more kind of forgiving as well as I kind of go forward. So to me, to go back in that kind of respect really does feel like a retrograde. And this is kind of one of the reasons why is it was coming up to kind of later when I was going to university. I knew that I was becoming more and more depressed. I was kind of concealing more and more. I didn't find out kind of what I wanted to be. And it kind of led myself down a path that I knew where I was falling. I could see myself falling, and I could see the routes that I could go down, and I could see that me wanting to escape was going to lead down a bad path, and it was going to escalate, and I really, really didn't want that to happen. But it took me a long time to have the courage to say, I need to have what I want to have. And it was at the darkest moments kind of in my life that there was a point in time when it goes, is this mask worth it? Is my life even worth it? Is it time that, I press the shutdown button? And it just got to the point when I was thinking about that so much because I was just so deeply, deeply unhappy about it. And I look back at it now, and it's almost like I have my perspective to know that all I needed to do was just to embrace and to explore who I am. That comes with a lot of internal strength that you need to do that. And that's why I think having like a supportive friends and a supportive network is just really, really important. I mean, this year I spent a lot of time making sure that I have kind of really strong goals for me to reach that are realistic, working out a plan for how to get me there, and having the really strong supportive voices, and voices as well that can kind of point you in the right direction, especially if you may be going in the wrong way, that can be kind of critical, but in a supportive, kind of caring and considerate way. But there was a point in time when I felt like I couldn't really speak to anyone about it because of kind of social rejection and all sorts of other stuff and all sorts of other things. This is why I think that the kind of the kind of mythical creature and the picture of kind of the phoenix is kind of a really, really big deal for me, because I've come from a place where I felt quite isolated and alone, and not being able to express who I could be, and also feeling that I needed to know exactly what I was before I even knew kind of what that is now and what that is developing. And I say my awareness of myself is still kind of expanding, and now I can see all the kind of negative behaviors and everything that I've done before as me trying to run away and kind of escape. And this is kind of really leads me into kind of where I've come to now in my life, that I knew that the change was essential, and embracing myself. I mean, initially I kind of came out as someone that wanted to be kind of very feminine and delicate, and I found out fairly quickly that that wasn't me. Not that people can't be kind of more feminine if that's how they feel, or if they feel that's relevant to them, or coming out as kind of a trans man or non-binary is definitely not a bad thing at all. It's who you are, your truth, your identity, which matters and which is important, which is crucial. But for me, that, let's say, ultra feminine, quiet person just wasn't who I was. It wasn't my truth, my identity. So I kind of took on this almost kind of alternative slash tomboy kind of persona, and that seemed to fit a lot more kind of better. I mean, it wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination, but it was good enough for then. It was essentially, it's a lot less heavier than carrying the kind of the male mask, which was weighing me down, and it felt such a weight off my shoulders, like something I just didn't have to worry about anymore. I mean, don't get me wrong, there's very much kind of social implications and a lot of growing from my side as well as from other people, and I have lost people in my life. There's definitely some friends that I've lost, and or kind of have come back to me now because of those kind of difficulties and challenges, because you've got to bear in mind it's a big change when someone changes their identity. For me, it was something that was always my internal truth, but I would show to very, very kind of few people. If I did, was very kind of controlled little snippets where I felt safe to. And for me, come from being inside to completely coming out, and to being completely kind of open and having all that kind of expression there, I think it was a big shock for people. I think some people kind of twigged that something was different. I mean, I had a lot of kind of people saying afterwards, "Oh, I thought you're a gay guy because you had these effeminate things, or qualities even." And now it's more about kind of embracing who I am, and I think there's a lot of things where I kind of want to run away somewhat from the labels, because when I kind of look at definitely my later years of trans, I mean, because it's been 9 years since I've come out and gone through kind of the medical process, the medical side of transition and that type of thing, is that there is very much more kind of a balance to my personality there. And I think it's other people that may identify some of my elements as quite masculine, because I love kind of motor racing and motorsport and that kind of competitiveness, and kind of almost sometimes having what may be called that very tomboyish kind of hanging out with the guys. I'm kind of really happy with that. It doesn't really bother me too much some of the time, but there's some aspects which are kind of very mother bear and caring and kind of girly, and kind of I love my soft toys as well as, kind of my racing cars and my computer games. And it's a bit of a mishmash together, or kind of different things that kind of coalesce. And there's very much, let's say, being male, that I had to fit a very narrow window, and sometimes I would feel that way, and sometimes I'd be quite happy taking those roles, and that would really fit me, and sometimes it would really be quite great on me that I was forcing myself to be something I really wasn't. I really wasn't that. And it wasn't my truth, and my kind of identity and my kind of expression. And I think now, when I kind of look back at it, I kind of accept that I'm just who I am. And not that, if people ask me, that I definitely would hate other people using labels, because sometimes it can be a nice little shorthand, but I find labels can mean different things to different people. So if if you just want to, oh no, well, how would you present yourself, or how you would feel, then I would, I could use labels as shorthands, but it'd only be if they would want me to expand on that, would I kind of go into more detail. But I definitely find it interesting that Jung talks about personal balance between masculine and feminine entities, and having those balances between those two things is really kind of important. I think there's lots of things that I found that it wasn't that I'm now kind of a sorted person, that everything's perfect, and let's say things of, let's say, being issues for me that maybe pulled me in the wrong direction have disappeared. I more think about shedding light on certain things. So it's almost like you're, rather than walking in a dark forest that you can't see all the trips and the pitfalls that I would fall into, it's more like the forest is in the light of day. So I kind of see where the trees are, I can see where kind of like maybe the animals that might hurt me might be, and where kind of maybe the friendly animals might be that, that maybe I can get warmth and solace from. But because I have the awareness to see those things, I almost kind of walk around the problems and kind of can sidestep them if there's any issues or problems, so they don't become a big issue. So for me, with things like, for example, mood eating, no, I never eat chocolate. Obviously, I enjoyed my Easter chocolate with lovely Easter videos, that kind of the Easter content that we did, which was really, really, really good fun. But there's very much a thing now of, I just don't have things like chocolates and sweets and cakes in the house. So if I have a guest round, I have to ask them, is there anything you want? Because I don't have these things around the house. I don't enjoy them. I'd love eating them. But if I was to kind of to have them, then it would be an issue for me. It'd be a problem for me. And I know that there would be a thing where I'd have to, that I feel that I might have to eat them. So I'd very much not have them maybe in my room, or kind of in the fridge or the freezer or in my cupboards or whatever. So I have very little kind of sweet things around, so I can manage that. And also, let's say, for example, if I have a lot of challenges or lots of difficulties and lots of changes, because I do like to have a plan and have consistency, I am finding things like going to the gym is really, really useful for me. So if I'm feeling down, or if I'm feeling that there's going to be a problem or whatever, I will actually use the gym as a way to kind of get my endorphins up, and to have kind of, look, I've achieved this, I've done so great. And I find that after going to the gym, my need for things like mood eating has gone away. It really dissipated. So I'm not saying it's never there in other situations, and not saying that I never have any chocolate at work, because I will have something, but it will be like a little bit. It'll be like a couple of squares or something like that. So I don't deny myself it, but I'll be very much more kind of aware of things, and make them show me the place where I have the right people and the right voices and the right mentality, and really focusing on the good things, because it's very easy to be kind of like to be self-critical and to look at what you haven't achieved. And I always look, what's my goals, what's my objective, where I'm going to go to. And this is kind of the most kind of important thing for me, is to have these clear directions and perspectives, and those voices, because I think a lot of people I find that have big difficulties or big challenges in their life, quite often when I'm kind of speaking to them, because I'll be quite honest and open, I find I'm very much more take people as they are, and as long as they treat people with respect, I can appreciate kind of different personalities a little bit, because they're just different people and they have different points of view, and they always enrich my life because of the different perspectives and different viewpoints that they can kind of give to me and give to my kind of awareness. But I find quite a lot of people that maybe have difficulties or challenges, or maybe they are kind of, I can see that, like sometimes I said, the dark past that people can be drawn into, because they're trying to kind of can dissipate their uncomfortableness or their sadness or whatever their challenges, whatever that might be, is that quite often they don't have those positive voices or their friends or their, certain things in their lives which they can feel that they are supported by. And I think that's a big thing, is because we don't talk about kind of mental health and awareness anywhere near enough, and there's a stigma behind it as well, because I find, especially around things like medication stuff, like there's lots of stigma around that, where, for example, if you have other types of illness, whether that's, I know, things like if you have a broken leg, you would have painkillers, for example. You wouldn't see that as an issue because you have a broken leg, so you're in pain, so you have painkillers. Where sometimes, when at certain points in my life, it's been so cloudy that I couldn't see enough just to put one foot in front of the other, let alone see a bigger goal or a bigger kind of thing to move to, or kind of light the inner tunnel to move to, because I was just looking down at my feet and that's all I could manage to do. So sometimes having medication can actually give you the ability to kind of to look ahead, and it is a journey. I think a lot of these things, it's it's taken me kind of a long time to come to now to my position where I feel that I am kind of more aware, strong enough, have the mentality, because I think at the moment I really am pushing forwards kind of with a lot of things, kind of with my weight loss, especially with kind of making kind of content and stuff like that. Obviously we're doing more live stream stuff at the moment because it's easier for me to make content and react a lot quicker. I like the fact I can react quicker. So there is, like, for example, the genderquake stuff, and obviously mental health awareness week and stuff like that, is that a lot of other things are very busy and changing in my life at the moment. Again, it's not a bad thing. I think these changes could be very strong for me, especially things like my weight loss and how kind of things like my diet and exercise are going. There's lots of very exciting things that are happening because of this change. But it means that it's very hard for me to kind of plan things. So that's what I'm saying, is the live streams in themselves are a little bit sporadic, and obviously I'm making sure I'm keeping up to around the 2 times a week, but I can't always control kind of when they come out at the moment, which is a bit frustrating for me, because I'd love to tune in at this time for Foxy Reviews, but it's not quite that subtle at the moment with my kind of my shifts and other bits and pieces. So it's a little bit difficult to be producing that and other bits and pieces, but we are definitely moving in a strong direction now. I'm very happy that the content is going out more regularly, and we definitely get back on to making sure that content is going up. I think that's a very strong thing, and I'm very kind of pleased with that now, that we are kind of getting to that position where we're producing regular content again. The other thing that I find is I'm very much a person that I have my ideals, and this is what I think sort of drives me on the channel, is that obviously I see a lot of, let's say, big mainstream content, whether it's TV, radio, or newspapers, or whatever, mainstream content that doesn't represent the trans perspective. So it does feel to me like an injustice, and that's one of the things that drives me. And what I've learned is that my identity is kind of my value, my core value sets, and what I view and perceive. And as I said, my kind of my gender and my sexuality, my gender expression, all of these kind of tie into who I am. And let's say what society wants, or kind of what other individuals may think that they need of me, that for me to be happy, to be strong, to be productive, is really to be true to what my core values are. And I know they are maybe somewhat different from society, and I especially know within the trans community we're a very wide umbrella. So you have maybe non-binaries, you'll have trans men, trans women, people that may want to stay away from a gender, and you have all these different perspectives and viewpoints, which I know some people can find it maybe a little bit frustrating sometimes, because you will have a lot of different viewpoints, when especially when you're trying to do something, and maybe there's something that you're very passionate about that maybe go against someone else's opinion or perspective. But I see that ultimately as a really, really good thing for the trans community, because you've got all these different rich environment where you have a lot of different perspectives and a lot of different points of view, and I think that is something that's really kind of powerful for me, and something that I find that as I kind of grow older, and as my awareness of myself and I become true to who I am and to my values and to what's important to me, and make sure I'm honoring that and I'm doing things to, towards those goals, is that especially with other people's perspectives, and it's like, for example, as I said, did last week with the bi community and the bi fest event that I went to, is that it kind of changes maybe how you might think about kind of sexuality and gender identity and other things like that, because everything interrelates. It always kind of blew my mind a little bit, where I would become who I am, but I would like the same type of person. I definitely have kind of a type of a kind of strong person that has very much a sense of, they will say how they feel but have a strong feminine side as well, and this combination of different things, and definitely them being a strong person, definitely kind of, I feel like, can attracted to them, but also this sense of needing to have a strong bond as well. So there's very much a demisexual element to it. Not that I can't have a connection fairly quickly, but it's very much the emotional stuff has to come, and that connection, that friendship, that understanding, that respect first, before the intimacy and other bits and pieces kind of come along with that. So I never understood, let's say they're going out to hook up. I can go out with friends because I would know them and I would have a good time with them because I knew them. It would make logical sense to me, no problems at all, because I would know them. But you'd have people that would kind of come up to me and, or would maybe insinuate that maybe that, they want something, or they're kind of looking for that. And I would be like, okay, I'm not disinterested, but I'm not going to know you quick enough, because you probably will be wanting something more than probably what would be comfortable to give you at such short notice. It might be different for some people, but I generally find that the whole hookup culture thing would really go against who kind of I was. But anyway, I feel like I'm kind of digressing kind of a little bit there, but it's my identity and who I was definitely different from what society was. But the more that I got closer to my identity and embraced it, the more capable I felt, and the more happy, and the more I found I could give to others. And the other thing was kind of attending to myself more, because I want to give to others, and that's a good thing. But it's more making sure you had the right forces that would empower you to kind of to what you needed and what was good for you. Because I found sometimes you can find a lot of other people that would want to take things from you to empower them, but maybe weren't in a place to give that back to you. And I thought that was quite interesting, that a lot of the times I'm focusing on what I need first, and then it would give me the energy and the impetus to help others, and then that would be kind of a fulfilling cycle, because I always make sure that I would look after myself. I have time for myself, and I feel like I've got energy, like especially for the content now, because I'm working on some personal things, and I know that I'm doing live streaming. But it's allowing me to have a rich life, and I can feel when I am making content, and I think it's very important that I'm making content for people, that I'm having the energy for that. I feel really passionate about the trans community, making sure that trans voices heard, making sure that kind of when we're talking about mental health and mental awareness, that it is spoken about. And when you might see this really strong person, that very much the phoenix for me is a very powerful message, because it has a lot of personal resonance for me. I feel that I wouldn't be the person today without falling to the floor, and it's only for the process of me just myself and getting up. There's been other times when I came out and kind of social acceptance elements that I had those moments again where I just found so difficult, and I didn't feel I could have anyone that would talk to, or necessarily would understand who I was. And of course now with all the friends that are wonderful friends and wonderful people that I have in my life, and really, really kind of big, strong influences, that I have those outlets and those solaces and those moments where I can maybe not be as strong, or you know, kind of express those things. And I think that's really kind of really important. Let's see if I've got anything else that I kind of written down on here. And I think that when I lost kind of my male mask and my kind of my male persona, I think that was something that was really a really big deal to me. I think it was really kind of important thing, and that's kind of where I feel this segment should end. Really, is that I think that journeys are important, but what I would say is I think everyone's personal journey is different, and I think it's very easy to advise someone on what they should do or how they should be. And especially when I've been in my deepest and darkest places, like, I didn't know where my issues were, so it's very hard to know if the actual suggestion would help me or not. And it was only by understanding little things that more and more of this imaginary metaphorical forest would get explored, to know what my solutions were, and where I could move forwards. And this is the thing where, if I'm talking to someone who I think may be, let's say, encountering some challenges or some things they're having difficulties with, sometimes the most important thing is just to be there for them, and to just, you know, in some degrees, just be ready for them and be open and accepting of them as they are. And, you know, if they want to go to somewhere else, that's fine, whether it's gender, sexuality, religion, doesn't really matter. But if they are, you know, questioning things or other bits and pieces, just be led by them for where they want to go. And you know, for me, things like kind of social acceptance was a big, massive deal, and especially wanting to be validated from others. And now it's very much my core values, what I believe, where I'm going, where I want to move forwards, is my core drivers. Not that I don't care about other people, or I don't find other people's opinions important, because they're very important for myself, for me to understand the world better, and for me to develop and grow as a person. But I'm not looking so much for validation from others to make me happy, because that's really led me down some really dangerous garden paths, which took me to some quite dangerous places. And this is the thing, is a lot of personal growth can take a long time kind of to get to, and to get to that perspectives, and to those to kind of those types of positions. So just have patience with someone. Be you know, don't have to say, "Are you okay? Are you okay?" every 5 minutes, but let them know that you're there for them, and just trying to be open and understanding. I think, and sometimes it's helpful if I found that if I read up on things a little bit, because even though I've studied psychology, I've studied counselling, I'm not aware of all the different things and issues, because I haven't encountered them myself. So it's very easy for me to speak about my own perspective, about how I dealt with my own challenges, but for other things, that's really difficult sometimes. And sometimes, if you can understand things more yourself, what may be someone's challenge or problem, it can give you a new perspective to approach it. But don't make assumptions as well. Sometimes I've read certain things and go, "Oh no, now maybe I can do things this way," and that hasn't necessarily worked. And I'm not saying that's a bad approach to be, but you do really have to be led by kind of other people and kind of where they're going to. But anyway, I think I really want to kind of leave my feature segment here. I'm just going to check the live chat to see if there is anything that sorry, just bear with me while I kind of pull a couple of bits up here. I'm just kind of avoiding my stuff here to see if there's any other live chats or anything like that. I'm just going to refresh that, so just bear with me and refresh it, just to make sure that the audio gets cut. Yes, so just bear with me here. Let's see here if there's anything here that I need to catch up with. No, that's fine, so I'm all up to date with everything. So yeah, so I'm just going to leave it there for now, because I really want to have this as a kind of a mental health awareness feature than, let's say, a well-being and other bits and pieces. Obviously, I think I've got a really big passion for kind of connecting more, and obviously we are going to be working very hard to get the schedule, and also obviously the audio, we've gone back to the camera audio for this one, because obviously we're trying to work out here, and we do want to include things like live chat and other bits and pieces. Obviously, this is something that we are really kind of pushing forwards and really developing. We are going to going through, obviously, kind of what type of content we think people would like, but please feel free in the comments to kind of put something that you feel that maybe you would like us to cover, or maybe topics around kind of mental health awareness, what kind of helped you with your journey, especially with transition. I find a lot of the times when I've talked to services, or I've gone through services myself, trans awareness and the trans perspective can be really, really poor. So quite a lot of the time you're finding when you're discussing things, you're having to explain things, and it's get really complicated and messy and tiring when you might not be in the mood to explain them. And I found that a lot. So especially with the times, especially you talk about things like unity and stuff like that, I have felt, let's say, it beneficial sometimes to talk about trans issues in a general way to give people understanding, sometimes with maybe kind of getting other people in on kind of supporting someone, or if I wanted to support someone, to talk about maybe some issues maybe related to the trans experience, because so often I see a lot of the times it feels like a real big effort just to speak about trans stuff, because it's really obvious that the person that's helping you doesn't know much about the trans position or the trans perspective, or how you might identify and what challenges those might face. So if you do feel that way, I would say definitely go and maybe find social groups or Facebook groups or forums or groups of friends, whoever you think that might be beneficial, that you can discuss those in more kind of details and kind of a little bit more kind of open perspective. And so you get that type of support. Not saying that it's bad to have, counselling or therapy. Sometimes it's really, really useful to figure out what's going on, because I'm not against medication per se, but in my personal opinion, to really approach things that are challenging you, sometimes it's helpful to have another opinion, another perspective, and sometimes the therapeutic perspective is something that really does help you. Because let's say, for example, I'm running a 5,000 meters. I have to train because I want to do it at pace. So, my ideal target, more than, say, maybe my weight loss at the moment, is to do it in around 40 minutes or less. So I have to physically train to get there. It's not an option. I mean, I could probably do 5K without needing to do any training at all, but it's more the challenge of doing it at a continual pace and a good pace, so I'm dispatching it in a good amount of time. Just bear with me. I think I just want to have a bit of a drink or something, because I do feel quite thirsty. I don't need to drink that. I'm just seeing if I think I've got some water here. I just want to grab. Oh, hold on. There we go. Oh. Oh, that's really better. But you have to train to do that. You don't just get good. You have to get there and get better and develop along the way. So sometimes having that bit of outside perspective, I definitely know things in my life that people have said to me, which were in my dark spot, in my blind spot, that I just didn't see until they were said or they were kind of expressed. Do I go, oh, and that explains other things, and that would explain this, and it would lead you to a path of greater understanding. So I personally don't see medication as necessarily a bad thing. I don't see therapeuticness or looking at friends or family or other people's support is, I think, very good things for mental health. And also being aware of maybe limitations of your personality, because I've got some big ones. I've got some things which I know if I was to just let go of, that would cause me big problems and big hassle. But because I'm aware of them, I've kind of got, let's say, ways in which I can approach them, I can deal with them. I think there's definitely you know, kind of, I don't really want to go into it too much in kind of this live stream because I kind of want to wrap things up at the moment, because we'd be going for quite a while. But a sense that sometimes you need to learn things along the way, and the sense that we all have needs, and sometimes we'll find ways to meet those needs which aren't very healthy, very much kind of motivational video type of content thing, where you're finding things which meet the needs now, which can be really harmful, like maybe mood eating for me was a big one, and that, you know, that maybe the sense of maybe not fulfilling others and not having appreciation, love myself, or wanting validation from others, that was feeding my need to be validated myself. And now, because I've been more looking at, I don't know, just being more mindful and aware, celebrating my successes, having some good goals, and valuing myself rather than being just so worried about what other people would think, where as long as I craft my own path and have faith in where I'm going, that's all maybe that I need, and that's all that is really required somewhat of of myself. So that is, I'm thinking certainly that awareness of those things and just recognizing kind of what those behaviors are and positive mindset. I mean, I'll kind of leave with this because I think I do want to wrap things up. Is I was talking to someone about kind of diets and stuff like that, and they were saying about how they hated diets, the idea of dieting, which, I mean, I call it healthy eating because for me it's learning kind of good foods for you to eat. And I said to them, was, oh, look, let's just stop here for a moment. Let's just stop here for the moment. If you want to lose weight, or you want to be more conscious about what you're eating, write down the list of all the foods that you like to eat. So whether it's kind of cheese, bacon, ham, broccoli, whatever, write down a list of all kind of the main constituent foods, or maybe types of meals, if there's a particular meal that you really love to eat. Write them all down. Every single thing that you can think of that, you know, not was a complete source of forever, maybe on an A4 sheet or a couple of A4 sheets, whatever, of what you love to eat, what you like, and what you know, what makes you really happy. And then on that list that you have, identify which ones are healthy. So whether you want to go down a calorie controlled route, or kind of a, I know, because I'm on a kick at the moment about having higher protein, lower fat, lower sugar, lower carbohydrate. Oh, I don't have any of those, but focus on the protein, because obviously it can be really filling. It's really good, obviously, when you're working, training, to make sure you're eating lots of protein so you have lots of energy and other bits and pieces. And I've found foods just by doing that task, just that fit those criteria, and looking maybe new ways of cooking and new ways of maybe kind of having my meals that really fit and really are congruent with that goal. But I went from a place of, oh, I hate dieting, or this diet plan is awful, or I don't like this. I mean, I find it really difficult to do diet plans, to be honest. Not that I've made, but when I was looking at a list of foods that I like to eat, and then goes which foods are healthy for me on the list that I liked, it was like, I can do this. And I am doing it. I mean, I've lost 5 stone. But it was through the process of getting to the point of changing that mindset, and then obviously using things like the gym, especially early on, as almost a replacement for the mood eating, whilst I was kind of doing the self-reflection of the bits and pieces and understanding myself better, that I really came to the point of being empowered. So it's so it's very much what I would call ways of working around very selective eating, rather picky eater, and things like mood eating and stuff like that, which would really pull me back and away from where I wanted to go to. And I think once that I've kind of embraced that more, that I felt that really empowered. Anyway, I think we'll stop it here because we've been going on for a little while now. I know kind of I went up and a couple of people was on the stream earlier, so obviously it's brand new to us, and we're trying to make sure that everything's kind of running smoothly, and we kind of work out what we want to do and how we want to go. But I said, if you do have any other kind of topic ideas or reviews, so I want to go maybe doing some more kind of live stream reviews, that could be quite fun. Kind of about maybe makeup or maybe trans related products, and that could be really, really good to get back into, because I really do love kind of doing those. And if you do have any other comments, especially about today, about mental health awareness, that'd be really cool to kind of to pop those in as well. All we do ask is you do be constructive within any comments. Just look out for live streams at the moment. Again, we're trying to do kind of a weekday and a weekend one. Obviously at the moment things are moving around, so we have to see where things will fall, because I don't 100% know all of the time kind of when I'm going to be available and when I'm going to be around. But rest assured, we are making content. We will be making sure they're uploaded afterwards, so they are kind of accessible. And as always, to keep up to date with trans features, well-being and reviews, subscribe.